Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back and tuning into this episode of the Vortex. I'm your host, Kathleen Pitt. I have a beautiful, beautiful guest and who I consider to be a very dear friend with us today. Louise Fernando, excuse me, a business energy strategist. She helps people with their capacity expanding and emotional regulation for visionaries in their scale phase without sabotage. Her tagline in her Instagram bio works on subconscious success, and she's got 20 years of trauma-trained social work and criminal justice under her belt. She's fantastic. She's beautiful. She's located in Scotland. Thanks for coming, Louise.
Oh, thank you. And it's such a privilege to be here. And I
Oh,
love your
stop.
accent as always.
It's so Louise and I met through our mentor in a mastermind that we were a part of. And it's always like so great for anybody listening that's been a part of those types of masterminds or been in like, spaces with other entrepreneurs. It's just so special, the connection that you form, because it's like you all come in at different stages, but you see the growth and evolution as you expand, as your business expands, as your capacity for expansion expands. And it's just so beautiful to witness and see the growth together, right?
Absolutely. And I think there's something so special about these kind of spaces because everyone comes with their own unique personalities, their own unique quirks, everything that they have, all the wisdom, all the insight, all the even generational wisdom and insight that they have. And then
Mhm.
we bring these people together and it's like a shared unity experience where everyone is just moving off one another. And, even when there's questions asked in a space like that, it's often that because we need to hear something within that question as well. So yeah, it's just such an amazing, incredible space.
Yeah, I always tell people when they hesitate to join a group coaching program, they're like, I don't know if I really want to be around other people. It feels really vulnerable. Like, I mean, I've run my program Super Creator about 3 times now, and every time the people that are in that group container, like are a specific, whether it be like my frequency that calls them in or their frequency that finds each other in the quantum before dropping into that space, like they are meant to be together. They have similar characteristics. They're going through similar journeys. They have like similar themes that pop up. And then, of course, it's always amazing to be around other coaches or strategists or entrepreneurs to see, like, well, how are you doing things? Like, I want to see what you're doing because it's just like, it can expand your bubble, like of what's possible and like what you're capable of.
Absolutely. And I think every entrepreneur needs that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my God.
you'll probably relate to this because of your background as well. But I know for me and my background, people thrive when they're in the right environments. Like
Mhm.
we can, when someone is in an environment that's, it's not based on just survival, but actually like flourishing and growth, then naturally we will become a part of that environment as well. And this
Yeah.
just has a mirror effect back and forward, and the growth just comes and comes. So, yeah.
Yeah. And two, like, it's really easy to see anybody sitting in this space, like you and I, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this, like through your earbuds, whatever, in the car, like it's easy to think like these TV or online personalities are just that. Like, I'm the quantum psychic, you're the business strategist, like, but we actually have real lives and families and things. And like, I'm still like mad that I didn't thaw the chicken out for dinner, or like I'm worried about what I'm going to pack for snack, or like like today I have a Christmas party to go to for my son's kindergarten, you know what I mean? So when you immerse yourself in that type of container, it's like, it's very expansive. I consider I like one of my expanders is travel. Every time I travel, I'm like, oh yeah, the world is a really big place. Or like, and anytime I'm in a container like that, it's like, oh yeah, the people can have big dreams and do big things. So like, let's hear about you and your life and your big dreams, how you got here, like the work from going from 20 years of social work, criminal justice, trauma certified, like to what you do now. Like that's a pretty, I wouldn't say it's like a chaotic jump, but it's definitely a jump. And so let's hear about it. Tell us your story. Tell us your vortex.
Okay, so My background and the way that I was led into my background was through my own personal experiences with trauma as a child. So I
Mhm.
experienced extreme trauma as a young child, and all through my life, I tried to speak up, tried to talk about it, tried to talk about it with other people, was always closed down, shut down, not believed.
Yeah,
And eventually this come to its head, and you know, I used a lot of substances and alcohol to try and numb some of those things when I was younger, like using like cigarettes and alcohol and substances just to deal with what was going on in my body as a young
yeah,
teenager, as I was exploring this big wide world that was out there, but unsure of who I really was, because when I had tried to be myself and speak up, that part of me had been dulled down by adults and told, no, that's
don't
not
bring it up.
appropriate.
Yeah,
That's Don't bring that up. So I'd always had this, it's safer to keep things inward, and then pushing it down with all these like the alcohol and other kind of really like not appropriate habits, and always kind of seeking love and affection and almost like, yeah, just seeking love and spaces that were not good for me either. So
right.
I ended up attracting like really negative relationships as a teenager and even into early adulthood, attracting male partners and ending up in domestic abuse situations and relationships. And I
Wow, yeah.
remember when my children were only, I was in my early 20s and my children were only 2 and 1. There's only 15 months between them. So that
Oh my
itself,
God. Yikes.
yeah, that was a pretty intense time, but I was on my own with these two kids, and I was in a domestic situation with someone that was using substances, quite heavy substances, and I remember just in a moment thinking, is this my life? Is this where I'm meant to be? Like I know, and I knew in my soul,
I just
I
got
knew,
chills.
yeah, like there was something in my soul that was saying, you're made for more, you're made for more, there's more, there's more, there's more. And it was really hard at the time to break free from that environment because everyone around me was like, who do you think you are? Like wanting to
Yes,
do
yeah.
better for yourself or wanting to educate yourself, wanting to do this and wanting to do that. And eventually I had to break free of that relationship, like completely break free of friendships, relationships, walked away from a house. I walked away literally with black bags and everything, like
Yeah.
literally started afresh. And that, because I'd seen so much addiction, so much trauma, and started to deal with my own stuff then, I was really drawn to work and help other people in those situations. So that led me into a
Yeah.
social work journey.
Wow.
So I first went into counselling, and I'm studied in counselling and did a lot of work in the counselling field with addiction and drug use, substance misuse, things like that. So my background's always been like addictions, like really entrenched behaviour patterns.
Yeah.
Um, and through then, I then went into the social work and then built a career in specialised teams with trauma, with addiction, with human behaviour, using CBT, using different holistic tools to enable people to break free of their own traumas, not just because trauma's in different phases as well. It could be a small trauma or a big trauma, but it's how the body perceives the trauma and it's how the body then internalizes that trauma and how then it impacts on the person and how then their life impacts as a result of that. And because I had broken through generations of my own trauma, it allowed me to sit in the room really presently with
Yeah.
someone. And I'm not saying that you have to do these things or you don't have to be an alcoholic to then work with people that are using alcohol. I'm not
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying was it allowed me to sit presently in the depth because I'd done so much work myself and been through therapy and things like that that I was able just to sit with that person and recognize where they were and what they needed in that time.
Yeah, without judgment. I mean, that's the big thing too. It's like we know this, like we've talked about this before in our mastermind, but it's like you go through everything you've gone through in life as a lesson. Like there's a lesson to be learned in all of it. It's all happening for your benefit, right? So like all of those things that you went through, and the substances, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the addictions, the unhealthy coping behaviors, the trauma locked in your body,
Mhm.
like these are all things that then set the stage for like, okay, I've faced that beast. I've looked it in the eye and I've managed that. And now I get to help you through that, right? Like that was another step in your evolution to where you are now.
And I think there's something so beautiful about someone being able to sit in the room with you, like to be able to see through to your very core, your very soul, and not hold that judgment, like not want to fill in the gap or fill the
Yeah.
silence in or jump into where you think they need to go, but to actually just stay present and hold them in that safe space. So yeah, so my work in that background then led me into I did network marketing. So I've had a few businesses. So my entrepreneur journey probably started maybe about 10 years ago, where I was known as the bag lady. And
Hmm.
the bag lady, so I sold handbags. I did
Yeah.
parties and went around houses and homes and sold bags. And I remember at that time thinking, there's certain bags I love selling, and there's some that I just would not bring out of the case. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not
I'm
doing
not
it.
selling this. I'm not doing this. And that that lesson itself brought me so many insights into how we sell and how we as entrepreneurs get behind what we sell, because the bags that were selling really fastly were the ones that I believed were really good. And the ones that were in the case, I was like, I'm not selling them. They're not good
No,
quality.
no one's gonna buy those.
So then going from the bag business into network marketing, where I had a team and recognized a lot of the work that I'd done in my background, I could see playing out in the online world, where
Yeah.
people were afraid of showing up. They were afraid of being visible. They were afraid of selling their services. They were afraid of being seen. And I started to recognize I can really help these people. I know that I
Yeah.
can help them break through this. So then, went on to do my coach training, trained in clinical hypnotherapy, NLP, and multitude of different modalities, and created my own modality. And I've now went on successfully to help many entrepreneurs break through their own limits and their expansion, because as we grow and evolve, our bodies are the key indication of how we go to that next stage, how we go to that next level.
Yeah.
And this is where the expansion really, really occurs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then too, like you said at the beginning, like the beginning when you went into counseling, it's like you notice that the trauma in some places was being stored in the body. The
Yeah.
body keeps the score. That's a beautiful book that I love. And then, my saying all the time is like what the mind suppresses, the body expresses, right? Because I would be interested to see how this evolves over time, but it's like, yes, like let's get people seen, let's get them heard, let's get that breakthrough unlocking of self. And then also like I want like let's get like all of it out. Like let's make sure we don't have any illness or sickness or like autoimmune condition from that throat sacral connection. Like let's get it all out, and when you live that life in alignment, it's not like I'm sure this happens all the time in your work. I know it does for mine, but like sometimes people come because they're like, okay, I just really want like a successful business. Or I really want to be seen, or like I really want to like up my messaging. It's like, okay, beautiful, come on. But like what really happens is like they love themselves more. They feel worthy more. They expand when you're talking about that true expansion, it's not just in business, it's in your whole life.
Mm,
Like let's watch how much more beautiful your life gets to be when you live in true, true alignment. Like it's not just about being seen and heard on the internet or like how well your business is doing. That's
no.
just a mirror of how you're doing internally. Like let's focus on that. But I don't like say that when they're like, I really want my business to do well. I'm like, perfect. Come on. Come to mama. Come over here. So, okay, I have to ask, at what point in this journey, in this movement through, counseling to social work to helping entrepreneurs, did you realize that you were psychic?
I've always known.
Perfect. Amazing. When did that first come up for you?
It first came up as a young girl. So when I was around 6 years old, I always remember my gran teaching me how to read tarot and tea leaves,
Oh,
okay? And now
amazing.
and now when I think about that, like that was like 40 years ago now. I'll be 46 in January. So yeah, 40 years ago. That was quite a taboo thing. Like back then, it was
Oh
like
yeah.
to teach 6-year-olds how to read tea leaves and tarot. But this was quite common
My
with my
husband like
gran.
wants me when I first started this journey, he was like, "How are you gonna like you gotta hide those? Like, don't let our kids see them." Blah blah. I was like, "Why? Like, why?" And then he was like, "I don't know why. Like, I don't know." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's unpack that." Now it's like these are just mommy's cards, you know?
So what then happened was I realized from a very young age that I did have a gift. Like, and I think that was a combination of, no, let's not take that away from the psychicness because the trauma can sometimes heighten the psychicness, the
Yeah.
intuitiveness that definitely happened for all a reason. But I started to just have these knowings, these feelings, these awarenesses, things like that, and it scared me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't deal with this. I wasn't ready at that time. So for many, many years, I suppressed it,
Right.
dulled it down for many, many years. And on occasions, now and again, I would say bravely, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready now.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
so brave. Yeah.
something would come in, and I'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, I'm not ready now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Changed my mind completely. Yeah.
it was a dance back and forward of I knew my gift, but I wasn't willing to really fully open up because I had this I had this belief that I would start to attract in all kinds of spirits and things like that. And I was just like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not available for that. No, 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 no. That just scared me at the time.
That's a
And
pretty
then
common one. I think I hear that a lot. It's like, well, I just don't want to attract the bad stuff, or I don't want to like see people all the time. But we'll get into that. Keep going.
yeah, and it was just I think around my 20s when again when all this stuff had been going on and the light switch went off of like I'm ready, I know I'm made for more. There was lots of and I didn't know this at the time, but I was manifesting really fast back then.
Hmm.
And always have been quite a big manifester actually. But at the time didn't realize now I know what manifestation is. But back then I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of what manifestation was. And now looking back, I think, wow, you were manifesting really fast back then. I mean, manifesting houses out of thin air, manifesting money out of thin air, manifesting
Yeah.
experiences and things like that. At the
Mhm.
time that I just was like, and it was just happening the minute I opened myself up to, okay, let's go with this. It was just all happening really, really fast, really
Mhm.
quickly until, I think even at that point, I was unwilling to own the gifts. I was unwilling to own what was going on
Yeah.
until I would say maybe even in my just around my 30s, I was like, okay, there's clearly a gift there. But
Right.
I had seen this through my work because I was able to uncover clients' issues very fast.
Right.
Like by asking direct questions, by just knowing and just intuitively being guided to where they needed to go next and really being able to solve problems really, really fastly.
Hmm.
And I guess for anyone listening as well, sometimes this stuff comes so easy. It's
Yeah.
like we start to question, how can it be so this easy?
Yeah.
It just, I mean, people
How
would
did
say,
I
how
come
do
up
you
with
do
that?
that? How did you do that? Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I just do that.
Yeah.
So
And it's like,
there's
as an
all,
example, it's like well, when someone says, like, oh, like, okay, I had a client yesterday because I also have this gift where it's like, is it that or is it boom, boom, boom? Like quick, very quick. I had a client yesterday and she was like, really, the last week we had talked, she was like, okay, I'm in. I'm going to sell this course. It's going to be super easy. I got it. And I left that client the call with her thinking, wow, she is like one of my most embodied client. Like she's just in the frequency, right? And then yesterday we had this call. It's like, okay, so how many people did you reach out to? How's the marketing going? And she was like, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't like, I've been so busy. And we talked about, manifesting from your subconscious, how you're creating the chaos. But then very quickly I said, like, it was just like, she's like, well, I just want to have things good. I just want to have things ready, blah, blah, blah. And then I have all this chaos. I was like, is it chaotic because it's Christmas? Or is it big chaotic because you don't want to be ridiculed, or you don't want to be told that nobody wants to sign up? And it was like, she was like, oh, oh, like called out, you know? And it's like that type of like being able to like see the subconscious manifestation, which is part of just subconscious work, but then like the psychic hit of you were ridiculed in, you know, in your early marriage or in your past life or whatever, you have a
Yep.
witch wound or whatever it is something that I feel, you know, is your greatest gift, right? Like that is an example of how we were talking about psychic senses, seeing the path. That's what we mean. It's like cutting through all the shit. It's not about creating an organization system for your Christmas stuff. It's not about putting a timer on for your marketing. It's about, is it that or is it this? And
Yep.
that opens up pathways so much faster for people.
And it does because we reduce the fluff. It's almost like we see the fluff and it's like, let me just move that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
The fluff is
and
a distraction.
it is massively the distraction. But, so being able to break that down really, really fast for clients, I just thought everyone could do that. Like,
Yeah,
I just assumed that, oh, yeah, everyone can do that. Everyone knows how to do that.
yeah.
But then you start to realize, oh, no, 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 everyone can do that.
Hmm. Yeah, and it becomes like your greatest quirk or oddity that you thought was quirky and odd is your greatest superpower. It's the reason that people hire you. It's the reason that they rehire you, right? It's like, wow, she
Yep.
sees me so much faster and so much clearer. Like the clarity that you provide for people in their business and their life happens so much faster working with you than it would be if they worked with a traditional counselor, therapist, somebody that wasn't psychic, didn't have that gift, you know, all strategy, not intuition based. So it's like, imagine if you wanted to work with a coach or wanted to have a business or wanted to do anything in your life and you could go like 1 foot at a time, or you could like get on a like lightning train much faster.
Much, much faster. And
Yeah.
it saves time for the client because we're not having to dig about in the garden looking at
Yeah.
where is everything? What how does this match with this and this and this? It's like, oh no, we know exactly what is causing the problem. Okay, let's work on this.
Do you
That's
think
just
Yeah, it's incredible. I think, okay, this is my theory, and you tell me what you think. I feel like people are stepping into this more, and maybe that's just because I'm more a part of the world now, obviously, because my journey's been a little bit, you know, shorter than yours at this point. Um, do you think people are like accepting this more? I feel like people are accepting this more. It's becoming more mainstream. And my theory is that spirit is affecting like more people. They're just, it's like a lightning effect or like a ripple effect of like boom, boom, boom. Like people are waking up and realizing like, okay, traditional talk therapy is not working for me, or like I am here to make a difference and impact in this world. And so spirit almost like pushes them and into the situations they need to be pushed in. And I feel like it's happening at a much more rapid rate.
yeah, I agree. And I think there is a lot more wakening up. But I also think that people are realizing when chaos and disruption comes in, it's not always a bad thing.
Mm,
Often the chaos and disruption is like awakening the sleeping beauty. It's
hmm.
like it's rousing. It's like almost drafting and wafting the scent over someone's face and their body and saying, "Wake up, wake up, wake up."
Wake up. It's time. It's time to move. And so do you like when you made that shift into like claiming your psychic gifts, understanding that that's how they worked in your business, did you shift your business to encompass that? Or and did you have like old clients that you pulled into your new persona, or did it just kind of happen organically and gradually?
It kind of happened organically and magically because I wasn't owning it in the beginning. It was
Mhm.
almost like, oh yeah, I'm a good coach. I know how to break through things. And I just thought it was down to my training that I'd had, the experience and the wisdom and all of the embodied trauma work that I've done over the years.
Yeah.
Because sometimes ego doesn't want us to realize our gift. So it was almost like, okay, yeah, you're good at that, but that's because of da 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 da,
Oh
rather
yeah.
than just owning the gift and saying, actually, no, it's because I'm psychic, because it would never, it may not have been understood. or because there's so many different, when we say the word psychic, because there's so many connotations or labels attached to that word,
Yeah.
people often have this perception of a psychic being something different from what I may be or who I may show up as.
Right.
Because if we're going from original fortune tellers or psychics from the past, we're talking crystal balls, we're talking, all of the things that
Yeah.
when
Purple
you're
velvet
younger,
is always
yeah,
comes to
yeah, we're
mind.
like,
Purple velvet and
yeah.
gold.
And that's not me. I'm this person that wears black, red lipstick and very glam and outspoken, direct, but nurturing, all of these things. And
Yeah.
there was so many lines of defragmentation that were not going together in terms of that word. So I tended to try and stay away from that word, if that makes sense. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, what am I? Who am I? I mean, there was all of this stuff that was going on. So I tried to dull it down. But as you know, the knock gets louder and louder. And even though I knew myself and my clients knew, it was almost like, come on, out you come.
Yeah, out you go. Come on over. Yeah, I mean 100%. I've definitely lived that life, of understanding I was psychic and being told to like shut up, be quiet, don't bring that up anymore. Like when I found out I was a medium in 2018, right before maybe even 2017, right before I was pregnant with my first. And then when I got pregnant, my gifts like shut down because it was just I had so much other stuff going on and like pregnancy took a lot on me and whatever. So, but I remember like being like, yeah, I'm actually a medium. Like I can give messages from the beyond, which again, huge awakening. Like it was just like nothing to everything. That's how my knock happens. It's never gradual for me. It's like, whoa, like you can speak light language, you can do whatever. So that's just how my spirits work. But I remember being told like, don't bring that up. Like, I don't really want to talk about that. Or like I would bring it up in casual conversation and it'd be like, huh, and I was like, okay, I guess we're not talking about this. But yeah, if you ignore those signs, like it just gets louder and louder and louder because that is what we were meant to embody in this lifetime. That is what we were meant to bring to the collective experience. And that is what makes us unique. Like I'm sure I haven't worked with any, but I'm sure there are business coaches and life coaches that are just like, well, tell me about your day, or like, how did that work for you? Or like, let's build a strategy to X, Y, Z. But like you said, it's fluff. Like it's just, I'm sure it works on some level, but that
Mhm.
is what I like to call matter changing matter. And we're working with frequency changing frequency, and that works a lot faster. Like this is the lightning track for success. And I truly believe when I'm talking about like people waking up faster or this coming through faster, is that this is going to be the new wave of business. Like
Yeah.
we're normalizing it. We're getting away from the purple and the gold. It's light, it's white, it's black, it's red lipstick, it's green. It's like luxury. It is. It just is rich girl psychic time. It's rich girl time because it's not about like come into my like I'm sure you had this. I'm sure you've seen this. I used to see it all the time like a cardboard sign or something. It said like palm readings, $20 or like yeah, psychic readings like, online psychics. They had like a bad rap for like doing those phone calls and like roping people in and yes, there's a scam involved in that. But there's also scams involved in life coaches. There's scams involved in some network marketing things. There's scams involved in the political system of like everything.
Yep.
So it's like, of course, some words are going to have a bad connotation. If you looked at any type of something, it's going to have some type of bad connotation. But we are here to destroy that. We are here to shift that, to make people realize like how powerful this tool gets to be and to get them into that up level alignment, like nervous system mastery that you're so good at, right? Like that is what you're here to do. So when you work with your clients in that way, like talk to us about like nervous system regulation, up level mastery, all those things that you do. How does that work in conjunction with your psychic gifts or not? Like how do you work with your clients?
Okay. So often or not, as you know, everyone has stories and they want to tell their stories in sessions and when you're in one-to-ones and things like that. And I think for me, the gift is seeing beyond the story and seeing beyond what truly what the subconscious and my psychic gifts allow me to tap into almost like that super conscious layer of that person. So it's
Right.
not even just speaking to their subconscious, but we're going up a notch. We're speaking into their subconscious, their super conscious, because that's where real change happens, you know.
Mhm.
That's when they're connected to source, when they're connected to their bodies and they're connected to their true soul and self. That's where real change and shifts occur.
Yeah.
Of course, the body gets in the way because source is always running through us, always running through us.
Always. Yeah.
It's like it's like an electrical current running through our body. If we slow down enough and we just slow, we can feel it in our fingertips.
Mhm.
We can feel it moving, and it's such an amazing, incredible feeling. And a lot of people are frightened by that slowing down and stopping phase to allow that to come through.
Yeah.
So when when we when we're always tapped into source, but our body can also disconnect us from that source, our mind, our body, our nervous system, which is always listening, is always awake, it's on the go 24/7. It just never slows down.
Yeah.
And it's when I always call it like the bridge. So source wants to take us over the bridge, but the body is like, no,
Yeah.
it's
I know. It's
scary.
uncomfortable.
This is uncomfortable. And this is where the area of expansion is. It's in the middle of that bridge where our
Mhm.
body wants to drag us back to safety and say, no, this is not safe, not safe. But the soul is always whispering, come this way, come this way, come this way, come this way, come,
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people get stuck in that middle bridge area. And this is where the real expansion takes place when the minute they decide to just, right, okay, I'm going to step over that bridge. I'm going
Right.
to go. But you often find they will flip flop back and forward in their nervous system because their subconscious and their body wants to keep them safe. It wants to keep them from going to that next stage, from showcasing their gift or being their genius, or so well, your mind will tell you so many things, like my mind did as well. Like, and I'm sure
Yeah.
your mind has told you many stories of,
Yeah.
oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's
Who are
not
you? Who
possible.
do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? I mean, who's even going to listen to you? So there's all of that that goes on in our bodies and in our nervous system as we're expanding. And the trick is to work through that expansion because we only have a level of tolerance for so much before
Yeah.
the body then starts to be compromised and we end up in fight and flight or even in freeze mode.
Yeah. Shut down.
And this is the work. This is the work because there are so many people collectively just now in fight or flight. So
Yeah.
many.
So many.
And the next stage is that freeze mode. And that's so much harder to come out of because we're inevitably defrosting a big, huge turkey. That
Yeah.
is what we're doing.
That's like, I've actually never thought of it that way, but that's so true. Freeze mode, defrosting a huge turkey. Because when you get somebody that's in that freeze state, which I can't tell, like, I couldn't say how many of my clients have actually been in the freeze state because normally they're like in fight or flight because they're making impulsive decisions or they're moving. But every now and then you get somebody in that freeze state that's like, I don't care. I just want this fixed. Boom, I'll sign up with you. And it just takes a lot of time. Like, it's like, all right, let's shift, let's move. And they're like, uh, like, because the nervous system
It is.
cannot handle it. It's a lot more grounding practices and like get outside and put your feet on the earth. And, like those are just some tools that I use, but you're so right. I've never thought about it. It's an actual defrost out of the free state.
It is. It's like the largest turkey you can think of. And it's
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 actually a whole cow
frozen.
that's
It's like a
in the freezer.
whole, yeah, it's frozen, and you're having to defrost and thaw that. But that for someone is terrifying as well because
Right.
in their mind and their soul is still whispering, "We need to move, we need to move," but their body is just completely closed down. It's like they can't,
Yeah.
and that's why I think it's so important as a mentor, as a coach, for me anyway, to identify where someone is, where they're operating on,
Mhm.
because then they can be coached differently. We can't coach and mentor someone that's in freeze mode the same way that we would mentor or coach someone that's in fight or flight, and vice versa. They're going to
Right.
have they're going to have different responses and different reactions to how they're coached and mentored.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually probably easier to coach and mentor someone that's in fight or flight because they're
Oh,
just
yeah.
taking action. They're just getting results.
Just funneling the energy to
They're
like,
just,
yeah,
but when if they dip right down, then that's difficult. And our like my work is to keep someone in that middle, that bandwidth, to increase that capacity so they're in that middle bandwidth of they're neither in fight or flight or freeze. They're in the middle where, oh, this feels expansive, it feels stretchy, but actually I feel okay with this. This is,
yeah,
they're working with the quantum, they're working with their superconscious, they're working with the grounded part of their body,
right.
and they're not channeling
Yo-yoing.
back and forward, yo-yoing back and forward.
Yeah, that's
So
so
yeah, I
amazing.
think it's fascinating. It's really fascinating because a lot of people don't sometimes realize what stage they're in
Mm-hmm.
when, or they don't want to recognize that they're in these stages as well because these stages work for them also.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm like case in point of that one. Like I was in fight or flight for years, like in free state as well, because it was just like and then what did I do? I just added more and more chaos into my life because it was a pressure mechanism to force me to move, to force me to change, to force and then like one of the things that in the container we worked on with my business, it was like, okay, what if like you were just okay now? Like what if you didn't need that pressure to
Mm-hmm.
perform or that pressure to move? That felt uncomfortable for me because it had worked for so long. It's like, well, how am I going to get results if I don't have pressure? How am I going to clean my kitchen? Or how am I going to like, run a business if I don't feel this oppressive nature, like forcing me, like squeezing me? But the truth is that you don't need that oppression. You don't need that pressure to move. The squeeze is where the harm is coming from, but it just doesn't feel like until you can get somebody into that equilibrium state. Like, I was going to touch on this about how yes, like the work you do is subconscious and super conscious. And a lot of
Yeah,
people resonate with this statement. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, right? They're like, oh,
yeah,
that feels really good to my soul. Okay, well, if you're a spiritual being having a human experience, you have to use both. You have to go bottom up, top down to
yeah.
reach that equilibrium state. And so, yes, whenever I felt like that pusher, that pressure, that squeeze, that oppression, it felt fine. It felt like this is how I get results. This is how I move. Like this is how I do life. So how am I supposed to change that? But you're so because now I'm on the other side, right? Or I've been on the other side. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Sometimes I go back into that push pull, and then I'm like, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Like actually, it gets to
Mm-hmm.
be really delicious and beautiful and fine and expansive just by breathing, and that is like not a one and done. It's a moment to moment decision for me. So when you can get somebody into that expansion and get them out of that fight or flight or out of that freeze into the expansion place, that is so powerful because even if they just get a moment of it, even if they just get a glimpse of it, then they can understand the concept of like, oh, it gets to be so good. Like it gets to be so free,
And peaceful, like
peaceful.
to feel actual source moving through the body and actually be present for that everlasting moment in that
Mm.
space and time
Infinity.
and that infinity of
Mm-hmm.
nothing else exists but you right now. And that is so powerful. And a lot of people are afraid of that feeling because there's a nothingness, there's a nothing to do, there's no one to be, there's nowhere to go, there's just
Isn't that funny that that's our greatest fear is like to actually be a part of the unified consciousness, to be a part of the unified field, to touch into God, source, universe, quantum, super conscious, whatever you call it. It is so people are afraid of doing that. They're fearful of getting there because then the ego loses the identity. The ego loses the problems to solve. And yeah, it's just there's so many layers to this work. There's so many layers to the nervous system, to super conscious, subconscious, like getting somebody into that expansive state. It's just so beautiful when you get there.
because when they're in that state of expansion, they feel their power. They're then like so grounded, and so like things can come in. And I always use the Matrix film as an example of this. So if anyone's not watched the Matrix film, I advise you to like, go
Yeah.
and give that a watch. But there's a scene in this where he sees the bullets coming towards him, and he's so present, so grounded. He's able to just pick each bullet mid-air
Yeah.
out of the way. And this is what it feels like when you're in expansion and when you're in source and working in that quantum, because you see everything coming and it's like, ah, okay, I see this.
Yeah.
Let me just
Let me
move
just
this.
call
Okay,
this
let
in.
me move that. And just pause. And that is such a powerful place to be, rather than using all our energy to dodge and dive and duck and move and like feel exhausted by where you're going and hustling and shoving and pushing and forcing. So there's definitely something really special about that expanded state.
I know it's so amazing. What's like the craziest thing you have when you've gotten to that expansive state, whether that be through meditation or just like, state of being, and you've pulled some energy towards you? Have you had that? I'm sure you have, like where that full alignment occurs, you pull something towards you energetically, and then boom, it drops into your physical reality. Do you have any like crazy examples?
Oh, lots of things. In terms of manifestations, you mean, in terms of things that have just come in really fast.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, even my marriage, I met my husband, and the very first time I met him, we met in the counselling field, and I was introduced to him, and I walked out of the building, and my intuition was like, "That's the man you'll marry," and I was like, "Be quiet," And I got in the car,
Yeah.
laughed,
You
and
sound
drove.
crazy.
Down. Like that is nuts. You've only just met this person. Like, be
Yeah.
quiet. And anyway, we've been married 16 years now,
Yay.
so that was like a really fast manifestation, like really fast. And
Yeah.
I didn't, and we always talk about this is an example of not pushing hard or forcing or shoving, because I didn't go on 10 different dates to find him. I wasn't knocking the neighbor's doors to look for the husband of my life. It was
Right.
simply dropped in because I had done the resistance work and was ready for him to drop in.
Yes, 100%. That's actually how I met my husband too. I saw him, I was dating someone else, and I looked at him, because my ex at the time, we had a house party, and my husband walked in the door, and I didn't know who he was, like, who's this guy at our house party, whatever. We went to this concert, and my ex like didn't want to go. He was busy like talking to everyone at the party. I was like, well, I'm going. And so we went to this concert. I remember standing outside looking at my husband. We were smoking a cigarette. I was still in college. I think he had graduated. And I looked at him and I thought, I want to date somebody like that. Like not even just him, just like somebody like that. Like, who am I dating? This loser. I want to date somebody like that. And then 9 months like go by, like nothing happened. Oh, nice. Thanks for going to the concert. Nice to talk to you, whatever. 9 months go by. I had ended that relationship, left somebody, went through nursing school. It was my graduation night, and I was sitting at the bar, like celebrating my graduation. And my husband walks up. He said, "Hi, like, I think we know each other." And I was like, "We do." Like, I'm single. Here's my number. And then boom, like we've been married. We've been together about 11 years now. So it's like I saw that it wasn't him. It was just the frequency of him, like that
Yes.
frequency that I was holding space for, clearing out everything in my physical world to allow that frequency to come in. And then boom.
And I think this is where maybe people get stuck using the quantum field as well. They become so fixated on it being a certain way or it coming in a certain way. But it's raising our standards and our expectations of what we're available to reach that frequency. And once we're on that frequency, then we attract in and align with things on that frequency as well. And I think we, I think even like an old stream manifestation, it's like, oh yeah, you've just got to visualize this thing. But if we're visualizing on one thing, we can shut down all the other ways that things can come in. I always talk
Yeah.
about this with my clients, like they're in Rome, the Colosseum, right? The Colosseum is one big round place. And if we were to walk in the middle and decide, okay, I want money to come in that door there.
Yeah.
But what about all the other freaking
All
doors
the
that
other
money can
doors.
just, but we becomes you
Yeah.
can become so fixated in business and in life of how it has to come in for one day and we completely obsolete every other way. When we're just like, oh goodness, I'm open and available for it coming in anyway, let all the doors open. Then
Mhm.
there's different ways that it can come in, and I just think it's so playful
Yeah, that is so true.
rather
And
than
it's like
that
not about
fixation.
it. Yeah, it's not about having the money come through that door. It's about having money come in. And so then it's like say you use your husband or my husband as an example, right? It's not about that person specifically, even though we did end up with those people, but it's like holding the frequency of what we want to attract and not getting, it's like detaching yourself from the outcome, detaching yourself from the need to know how it's going to arrive, and
Yes.
just leaning into the flow and trusting that it's already done. And when you walk with the gratitude and the expression of thanks and like abundance that it's done, then it will just find you. Like this is the law of attraction and law. Like this is a universal law that I think a lot of people forget. You are attracting, you are manifesting consciously and unconsciously all the time. So you get to, it's like you can either walk through life and be unconscious about what you're bringing in, or you can walk with intention. You can move with intention. You can manifest with intention. You're going to be manifesting either way. So why not be intentional about what frequencies you're calling into your life?
And I think this is where the power of the subconscious comes in so powerfully as well, because if we're not aware of what we're attracting in and we're not aware of what our previous patterns are and how we're recycling old patterns, old behaviors, and on a frequency, then we can attract in more of the same. And it's not until people have had more of the same quite a few times that they actually then say to themselves, why does this always happen to me? Or why am I always attracting this in? Or why am I always attracting that in? And it's often because they're on a completely different frequency. They're not really plugged into what the patterns are, where they can disrupt that pretty quickly. But again, that's a nervous system work as well. It's like, okay, I don't want to attract it and I'm no longer available for that. Let's step up that frequency. But then as we step up to that frequency, some of the old may come in just to see how committed we are to this next level layer. And
Yeah.
then there's the
And
push and pull
those
of
patterns,
back
they
and
run
forth.
deep. Those are 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old nervous system patterns, right? Like you can interrupt them once or twice, but it takes conscious rewiring and relooping. Again, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. If you want to change your life, if you want to change your manifestation patterns, you have to change both. You have to have somebody that can cut through the fluff for you and get that super conscious frequency down, and then, somebody who can hold that space for you to
Yeah.
shift your subconscious and nervous system as well. It's just like, oh, this is why like you're so good at what you do. This is why the impact that you're making is so powerful and profound, because this is the way. This is the new way of the future for business, for life, for anything. And I can't wait. I can't wait for like all of this to become so mainstream that it goes into our healthcare systems, that it goes into therapy. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is, I truly believe, radically going to change the way that we do that we perform psychology or a psychiatrist, or how
Yeah.
we study the human brain. It's like we're just, I feel like in medicine, the human brain is like the final frontier. Like we really don't know a lot about it. We know a
Yeah.
little, we're learning all the time, but it really is an enigma to many of us in the medical community. And I truly believe that this work, the superconscious, quantum, psychic, God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, is the next layer of the future for medicine, for all of it. So keep doing what you're
Definitely.
doing, Louise.
And I think as well, like that I've forecast a lot of this stuff many, many years ago and been laughed at many years ago because it's like I see a different way, I see a different way, I see a different way. But when sometimes it takes the mainstream to catch up and then eventually they're like, ah, okay, I get this now. But when you're a person that sees beyond the vision and you see beyond, 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 it can sometimes be challenging to try and show people a different way that they're not fully aware of yet. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it takes thick skin too. Like, I mean, you talk about the very beginning of this podcast, you talked about visibility. Like people don't want to be seen. It's because, people are mean, like nasty, especially on the internet. They're so nasty. Every time I get like hateful comments, I'm always like, would you say that to me in person? Like, no, you wouldn't. You would never say that to
Mm.
somebody in person. And people are just, it's like I can take it. I got tough skin. It's all it is to me at this point is engagement, but it is just that willingness to see the vision beyond the vision beyond the vision, show up with authenticity and know that, like, stand steadfast, this is my truth, and this is the truth that, like, my clients who also feel that soul call, that soul push, that movement to get out of what's keeping them captive, they're going to find me. And then this is only going to make a more and more profound effect that in 50 years, they're going to be like, oh, wow, I've heard that the quantum is the next wave of medicine. Like, okay, yeah, I can take it. Because it's not about me, right? It's about the bigger vision. It's about moving people forward, moving the collective forward, and really like changing people's lives. Like, you are changing people's lives. So for anybody that is like hearing this and thinking, I got to work with Louise, she's like the nervous system specialist, subconscious, superconscious queen. I want to be in her vortex. How can people find you? What does working with you look like? Like, tell us all about what you got going on.
Okay, so I always say this, everything needs to be simplified for me because I'm a simplistic person and it needs to just be that way. So it's Louise Fernando on all social channels. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I also have my website as well, which is www.louisefernando.com.
Oh, nice. That's
They're
very simple.
very simple. There's like so simplicity because I
Yeah.
just think, okay, let's just keep this clean and squeaky, squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Um, so I love, love, love working one to one with clients. That is probably my super genius because I can go beyond what is going on with them. So I have my one
Cool.
to one program, like services. I also run a mastermind, the expansion mastermind, and also have the business expansion academy as well, which is a shorter kind of way to work with me. And there's lots of different free meditations and things like that on the website. So there's something for everyone, and no matter what stage you're at, whether
Yeah.
it's just to dip your toe in or you want to dive right in. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we'll make sure we'll have all that linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. This was such a great conversation. I knew it was going to be good because I love you, but this was probably the first time you and I have been able to talk like really in depth for an hour about all of it. So thanks for coming on the Vortex.
Thank you
We'll
so
have your
much.
episode up soon. Thanks for listening, guys.